Greetings, I'm Lama Tantrapa. Welcome to the Secrets of Qigong Masters, the talk show brought to you by Academy of Qidao, the first and only school in the world offering professional education in Qigong coaching. To find out about Qigong coaching and the programs offered by Academy of Qidao, please visit qigongcoaching.com. Today, I'm honored to interview Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson. He is the foremost expert in medical Qigong in America and an author of many books on Taoist alchemy, magic, and the art of transformation. Yes, so there is a difference between students and disciples.
Yes.
And how would you describe the difference, and also why would anyone want to become a student versus why would anyone want to become a disciple?
We say that everyone's a student, but not everyone's a disciple. Mm-hmm. When I was training in China, I met my teacher one of my teachers at the Temple of Heaven Park, and he was explaining to me that everyone in the park that come to train with him, because the way the People's Republic are set up, for them to teach in the park, they have to accept everyone as students, except for foreigners. Foreigners are different. He goes, and I go, really? He goes, yes. So everyone who comes to me is a student, but not everyone is a disciple. Disciples, we choose the cream of the crop, and then if they have potential, we'll pull them aside, and they're very hard and stern on the disciples. And I ask him, why? He said, because then they represent us. He said, we're students. Oh, he's a student, but he's not a disciple. When they're a disciple, then they get the closed door teaching, where students get open door teaching. What I teach you as a student, I will teach this person, I'll teach, but the closed door teaching are only for the disciples, and that's the way it's always been.
And what's the objective of being a disciple?
Well, that's because you carry the lineage. At that point, when you're a disciple, the lineage is then given to you. And so students traditionally aren't given the lineage. When you become a disciple, then you swear an oath to the clan or to the system or to the family or to the Taoist tradition. And after that oath, you're given a lineage, you're given a name, and you're set up an initial part of different trainings. And that's the way it's always been.
And what would motivate one to become a disciple?
Well, the closed door teachings. If you're serious, you need those teachings. They're essential for your growth, especially if you say, well, I'm really serious about learning this tradition. Okay, well then you have to clean this up and clean this up. And you go, okay, I will. Really? Yes. And so they do that, and you watch them, and then now they're moving differently. You go like, you've been practicing, yes. So you're not a social artist. You're actually serious about this. So it's not meeting Tuesday and Thursday or one day a week and just making friends. This is your life. And so at that point, you pull them aside with other people that are that committed. And then they start meeting all the time, and then they start really mastering their system and their art. Where the students, they meet whenever the class meets, have fun. They train, don't train, it's okay, it's no big deal. The disciples, you're hard on them, and they have to. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you put somebody else new in the disciples, then you have the older brothers or the older teachers work with the younger people. And it's kind of like a pecking order. They want the information and they embody it. And so you want to fine-tune them so that they can be actually an embodiment of the teaching, and they can actually give it to other people. And students, they don't have that. They're meeting together, having fun, and you don't want to stop that. You want them to enjoy themselves. But the disciples, no, I want to represent you. I want to represent the lineage. I'm serious enough to say, yes, this is what I want for me. Yeah.
Great. So you start as a student and then graduate from being a student to become a disciple. Right. How long does it take normally to, for example, your students to transition from the first steps as a student to becoming a disciple?
Well, all students get the form. We have forms. We have fast forms. So it just depends on which system that you're doing. Let's say, we'll take Tai Chi. You do this form, and then there's something we call the 16 internal principles. There's 16 internal principles, then there's 40 functions, and then 8 huanqi, which are metaphysical boxing. It's really, that's where the magic comes into the martial arts. Remember when we were talking before, and I said, no, well, before I had the Dragon's Gate, I also had a Maosheng teacher. And the Maosheng teacher was teaching me how to do the Taoist exorcisms, and he explained that in martial arts, your training will only get you so far, and then you'll encounter a Taoist sorcerer who will pull an animal spirit or a general or some demon inside of him, and now you're not fighting with a normal person. You're fighting with a spirit that has supernatural powers. And the trade-off is that as he's beating you, the spirit is feeding from the terror and all the pain that you're feeling. So the sorcerer that's a martial artist that gets filled with this type of spirit, that's how they live symbiotically with each other. And he goes, so what we're taught to do is to say these incantations and cut the cord. Once you cut the cord and throw the spirit out, the martial artist collapses, because what happens is for the spirit to possess the evil sorcerer, it takes up its body.
Well, interesting that you put the label evil on the sorcerer.
Well, usually if someone's going to summon a spirit into them, it's not going to be to do good things.
Really?
Well, unless it's rich as a martial artist. Usually it's, from what I've seen other martial artists do, usually it's on the darker side because it's based on power. There are those who then, we say they pull in the righteous, in the Bible they call it like Samson fought and he did all this. For Taoism you have all these other generals that come in and the spirit's on them, and they say that they fought and they have all supernatural power. But what I've seen actually out there have been people that are just dark and very, very dark, and they're looking for power, and they pull these things inside because it's about winning. It's not about protecting anybody except for themselves, and it's because they have been offended or for some reason they have a justification so that they can hurt others and then feel good about themselves.
So they basically haven't figured out how to transition from the mode of having to the mode of being when it comes to power.
That's why we say martial artist, healer, scholar, priest. Because from the martial artist, one thing is about surviving and making sure nobody hurts you. The other thing is in protecting others with this skill and this ability. But that's going from you to outside of you. And then the other thing is completely sacrificing for other people. And that's where we say you go from black magic to gray magic to white magic. So whenever you take any skill level and it's about you and you only, then we call it evil or dark, because it's only based on selfishness. Because as you evolve, then you begin to think outside of yourself and begin to focus on other people and go, what is their needs? What do they need? And that's how we do the transition. And so, back with Dr. Wong, so that was one of the things he explained. Now, I didn't believe it until I saw it. And then I go, oh, that's why different people study these different types of animals, is they embody that animal spirit, and then from there they have supernatural ability. He goes, yes, because they open themselves up to that. But if you can say these things and get rid of it, then you have no problem. But to do that, you have to have a spiritual authority. If you're not hooked up, the spirit's not going to leave just because you say go. I used to tell the students, I liked The Mummy. Remember the movie The Mummy? The mummy's coming after the guy and he's pulling out all these different, and saying different things from Taoist to Buddhist to Christian, anything, because his core is not hooked up. It's not these words, it's your heart that gives the words the power. It's your connection that gives the words the power. That's why whether you're doing martial arts, whether you're doing healing, whether you're doing mysticism, it's getting your core to line up with your code of conduct, your integrity, and your true beliefs. That's what makes things happen.
I agree. Would you share with us a little bit about the true beliefs? What are your values? What are your motivations that install and propel you down the path of your studies and spiritual pursuits?
My core values. You're asking for my core values and my core beliefs. That's a profound question, because they always say that the Tao that can be described is not the true Tao. It's something that you have to experience. For my core, I'll try to put it in words, because the guy that said that went on to write 5,000 more words about what the Tao is. So I always tease about that, because I'll ask different people, what is your concept of Taoism? Well, the Tao that can be described is not the Tao. I go, yes, but the person who said that went on to describe 5,000 more words about what the Tao is and isn't. So with that in mind, what is it? So coming back to me on the question, my core belief is to teach others the gifts and the skills that I've been given in this journey, so that they can improve on themselves, so they can transform their lives for the purpose of service and divine enlightenment. That's what I truly believe. That's why I write the books that I do. It's my hope is that people will read that and go, wow, I could do this. This will improve my heart. This will improve my life. And I can take that and be an influence to all these other people. Because that's what we're here for. And I think as you get older, you realize that you're only here for so many more years, and then you get to go home. And so I can't take all of these things that I've been taught. I've been very, very fortunate in my learning. I had an astrologer come to me, and he was doing my charts, and he goes, I bet that you can go up to these different masters and they'll just start sharing knowledge with you. I go, yes. And then I would come up to them and they'd close up and wouldn't say anything. I go, yes. He goes, has it always been that way? I go, yes. Didn't you think that was strange? I go, no, it's always been that way. And he goes, do you know why? I go, no. He says, because you have the star. You're a carrier of wisdom. And people who have the star, masters just naturally open up to them and teach them things, because you are responsible for giving back to the masses. That's what your calling is. And I looked at him, I go, well, then I'm fulfilling my calling, because as I begin to share with people the information and the knowledge, the primary goal for that is so that they can heal their lives, transform their lives, and then be a light to other people. That's what we're here for. And that, I think, is the beauty of whether you're a Christian or a Taoist or a Buddhist or a Muslim. If you're following the true path, it's all about service of the light. So.
Wonderful. As one of the originators of the practice of medical Qigong in the United States,
Right.
You are known as the author of books on medical Qigong, as the founder of the International Institute's Medical Qigong, and it seems like you have kind of transitioned from medical Qigong practice and exploration to more of a Taoist mysticism.
Right.
Can you share with us a little bit about this transition and what precipitated it?
Well, I think that after a while, as you get into the study of matter and energy and spirit, you eventually embrace the divine. You cannot embrace energy without going to its source. The divine mind that creates, you just fall in love with God. Truly it happens. And as I've gotten older, I appreciate the cause and effect of these different clinical modalities as a foundational base for spiritual work. And so what I do with my students is I'll teach them how to work energy, how to feel energy outside their body, how to push and pull each other without touching, how to work into the clinic, how to work inside the body in the channels and the pools of energy. But to get even closer to that, they have to become aware of thought and intention. Once they become aware of thought and intention, then hopefully they will discover, like I discovered, that the core base of this is this divine field of love that we're all kind of born from. And that's kind of the whole purpose of being here. And so that's why, as I've gotten older, I'll give you one clinical case. There was one student that I had who had very, very high PSAs. And so much so that they'd given him 2 weeks to live. So he came to see me, And we talked about it, but I was teaching the class. I was teaching the medical Qigong class. So I took 4 of my senior students, and I asked them to stay afterwards.
Not disciples.
Well, they're, okay, disciples. Because they'd been with me for about 6-7 years at this time, so definitely disciples. So there was 1 woman, 3 guys, and then myself. And so I put the patient on the table, and I said, okay, I'm going to teach you something I haven't taught at the 5 branches, because I was Dean of Medical Qigong Science at an acupuncture college. Actually 2, the 5 elements in Florida and the 5 branches in here in Santa Cruz. And I go, I'm going to teach you something that I don't teach because it is in the realm of magic, and I don't know legally what I'm allowed to do at the colleges. But more important than that is this individual. He's become a friend. He's not. After a while, you love your students. They're good people, and you want to see them thrive. You want to do the best you can for them. So I told the woman, I go, I'm going to give you different elements. I'm going to show you how to then dissolve his body into these elements. And what we're going to do is purify the elements within the body. And so we went for earth, water, fire, and then wind or wood. And then I opened an infinite space, the
Interesting. That's more like a Tibetan elemental system rather than the 5 elements in the Chinese.
Right, they're really similar. It's just that for space they use metal and sound. And then for wind they use wood, that's why in the I Ching you have wind, wood, which is the same thing. So we dissolved all that, and then we purified it, showed them how to purify it. And that was the only time I brought them in and taught them how to do that. This was on a Saturday. He went to Stanford on Monday, and they did the test again, and his PSAs had dropped down to 2.
And by PSA, I mean...
Well, he had prostate cancer that had metastasized into his entire body. Remember, my forte is in dissolving tumors and treating cancer. That's part of... Everyone comes with different gifts, and that was one of my gifts. So, and I told them, don't tell anyone what we're doing, because they won't believe and they'll think you're weird, and they have trouble with us anyhow. And so he called me, and so I also called the other 4 in, because it's important that they share in the fruit of their labor. Look, you treated this one individual, and this is what happened, and I want to thank you because of your compassion and kindness. This is what happened. And so, but I couldn't teach that at the university, so I started teaching it in the Taoist magic classes. My daughter came to me, her son was having night terrors, and so he'd wake up every night screaming. And so she goes, Dad, my son's having night terrors. And I go, okay, he's being fed off by spirits at night. I'm going to give you a little round thing of jet. Jet is it's a mineral. I'm going to imprint it, and I want you to put it in his crib. She goes, really? I said, yeah, it'll absorb the spirit when it comes in. It'll stop. She goes, really? I go, yeah, honey, I don't make this stuff up. I'm your dad. I know this stuff. So she put the jet that I imprinted in the crib, and they slept through the night. And now this is the first night in 2 weeks that he didn't wake up screaming all night. And then they woke up and they were afraid that he had died during the night because they slept through.
Too quiet.
Yeah, it was too quiet. So they came running in there and they were like, I go, oh no, it worked. so she called me, she goes, Dad, it works. I go, yeah, I know, you're imprinting this. Now what makes it work is not just the jet. The jet has an absorbing quality, but it is we call it the incantation or the words, the sounds. It is the mind imprinting, and is your connection to the divine. You take the jet and you realize that there are 3 jets. There's a physical structure of it, there's an energetic and spiritual. And it's imprints. It has a natural inclination towards certain properties. You understand that because of your studies, and then you imprint it and you increase its energetic field, and it then has protective qualities. Then, because you have the authority as a priest or a child of the divine to do this, then through this authority and the divine authority, you imprint it, and then it acts in accordance to what you've allowed it to become. So then she started studying with me, which was kind of neat. So now she's one of the abbots. She's been at it for quite some time. I was very proud of her.
Beautiful. Now, if we come back to the question of discipleship, if you don't mind,
Okay.
would you share with us a little bit about the progression of discipleship or apprenticeship? Unless these are two different things, apprenticeship versus discipleship.
No, okay. These are students. They're outside. You decide that this is what you want. You have to be sponsored to become a disciple. By one of the other disciples. They have to go, no, he or she of strong integrity will vouch for them, will be their support. And so they come in, and then it's one of the senior abbots or the senior priests have to go, all right, I'll teach them. Now that they're a disciple, then they start their apprenticeship under this teacher. The minute they stop the apprentice, they can be, longer, they move. So they're no longer apprenticing under the teacher, but they're still a disciple because they're still doing the work. It's just that they're no longer receiving the work.
Disciple of whom?
They're a disciple of the system, but an apprentice of this master. Okay, so they're still a disciple of this system, but they're no longer apprenticing. Maybe the master moved, maybe the master passed, and that's how we distinguish between an apprentice and a disciple. All disciples belong to the system, the lineage, but the apprentice are learning specific instruction under a qualified master.
And are there any particular tests or other points at which the disciple either graduates from the discipleship or achieves a certain levels of mastery at which he or she is capable of teaching and or becomes an abbot?
That's according to the teacher. Okay, so the teacher sets their own standards because everyone's so different. Certain people may get this skill very easy, but lack this. I had one of my students went to Chinchon Mountain to train with the Dragon's Gate, and he met this one master that could summon the wind and do that. So I was encouraging him. He goes, Sifu, I'm training with this master that can summon the wind. Do you have any questions? And I go, yes, ask him these questions. So he sat down with the master and started asking these questions. The master goes, how dare you ask me these questions? You're not even at this level to ask me these questions. You are here. Don't you ever, and he chewed him out. And he called me back. He goes, he chewed me out. I go, oh, then he's a good teacher. He goes, what? I said, he's a good teacher. You don't qualify to have those answered. You're not at that level. He's interested in you as an individual. To do that, you have to complete this before he'll teach you that. And what I asked you to ask him is way over here. But you asked me, do I have questions? So, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Now, he studied with the master for 4 years. And last year I was talking to him, and he was all distraught. And I asked, what's wrong? He goes, well, I asked him if he would ask, he goes, Sifu, master, could you teach me how to summon the wind like you do? And he goes, no. He goes, why not? Haven't I been faithful and good? He goes, So, well, why don't you teach me to summon the wind like you do? He goes, I came in with that gift. That's my gift. Everybody has different gifts. And I was laughing. I go, you didn't tell him that you studied with him just to try to get the power, did you? He goes, no. Because his job as your teacher is to bring your personal skills out. Your personal skills. What they don't understand is they see what the master does and they want to imitate that. And they exclude the fact that they have their own gifts. But they live in the shadow of this teacher or that, which is, it's another escapism. You're supposed to do your own work and allow your own gifts to manifest. We're not supposed to compete and compare with each other. That's wrong. That's a whole trap in itself, is that competition. A true master will encourage the student to be the best that he or she is and allow their magical skills or their physical skills or their mental skills to completely flourish, and then encourage them to be of service to humanity. That's what the work is all about.
Right, and the master is the master because he or she is in the flow, so to speak,
Exactly.
in his own flow, trying to emulate the moves or the techniques of the teacher, trying to be in his flow is not going to get you in the flow, because he can't be in his flow, because he has his own unique energy and physique and mentality. Nor can you be in your flow by trying to emulate somebody else's flow.
Exactly. You know what we always do is, I'll hook up with these pups. We call them pups here. They come in, they go, well, my master can do this. I go, yes, I'm aware of your master. What can you do? What? You've been studying with him for 11 years. He has this ability, this ability. But your master is actually extra special. He's like 1 in a million. He has very, very good gifts. He's special. But what can you do? What has he taught you to do? Well, you've invested 11 years of your life in the shadow of your master. You have nothing to answer for it. That's on you. All I know is your master's reputation and his ability. But I'm assuming that he will try to enhance your abilities to bring you up. And if you don't train, then we stop. And do you know one way we stop and get rid of you is we say, oh, you have arrived. There's nothing more I can teach you. And actually, a lot of them, they buy that and go, oh, I have learned all that I can. And in all truth, what we'd say is, you're headstrong, you're stubborn, you're not listening to me. You cannot put water in a full cup. You're not empty. And to do that, you have to humble yourself. The lessons that were given to you, you disregard. And because of your arrogance, you're taking up someone else's time that I could be mentoring. So please go. But instead, so you don't hurt their feelings, you always say, no.
You get a certificate.
Yeah, here's a certificate, you know everything, please go. Or, golf clap, everybody golf clap, you know. Yeah. And in all truth, you will study with the master until the very end, because we invest time and effort. We never give up on you. We really, until we pass everything on, that's the way it's set up. Mm-hmm. If a master then tells you you have everything, and it's because we're trying to get rid of you. And right. I hate to tell you the truth, but that's really true.
Well, and when you look at the structure of the Institute of Medical Qigong, mm-hmm. obviously there is a certain progression right. that the students in the Institute go through. So they become Qigong therapists, and then they become Qigong masters, and become Qigong doctors.
Right.
Now, how did you come up with that system, and what does it mean to you now?
I set up the program after I went to the Haidian University in Beijing. It's a Western district in Beijing. Everyone who graduates from the Haidian University does their internship at the Shilun Hospital in the Western district. And so when I got my graduate degree, I followed and copied the same pattern that they did. Because you have practitioners, therapists, masters, and doctors. In the program, they don't do that. You just go to DTCM, Doctor of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Then you graduate as like a doctor, but then you have to complete your internship. And so you spend all this time with the internship until the doctor signs off. In the clinic, you have doctors in charge, associate professors, then professors. And then when they sign off for you, then the rest depends on who graduates and how much information or knowledge that you've learned and where they place you and what your expertise is. And so when I came, the great thing about being a foreigner in learning in China is that sometimes the guys in the universities get in their own cliques. So the people from the Beijing guys, they're all hang together. People from Shandong will hang together, Henan, Hebei, all the doctors will, and they don't associate with the other people. They don't. It's just that way. And I would watch, and I see energy, so I am visual, so I draw pictures. And so when I was all the way up working with the associate professor, he and I would travel into the different wings, and I would be drawing pictures. And so the guy would see me and me going like this, and I'd be drawing pictures. Look, and I'd show him, and I drew him emitting energy. And he got all excited, and he'd start doing stuff. So for lunch, Johnson, and they're going, Johansson, come here, Jerry, check this out. And so they'd be showing me all this stuff. And so everyone was fighting over me because they wanted me to draw their picture doing what they could do. So I took all of the information from all the different colleges, and that was that big book. And when I came back to the World Academic Society of Medical Qigong and presented it to them, they were all excited because the universities keep the information away from each other. And so hearing a foreigner taking all their stuff, putting it together and giving it back to them. And then when the Falun Gong thing happened, everything shut down. And so I kept the program alive here in America. And then it took 2 years to work with the People's Republic of China to get them to accredit the International Institute of Medical Qigong. And that's because I had to go through the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. And they never gave a foreigner an overseas seal. So to represent the Hunan University, I had to go through this. So they had the Attorney General from the LA call me, and the Attorney General from San Francisco come down. They had to go through all my certifications, took pictures. I had to go to China many times to go before board meetings. And finally, when I got the okay, then we were working with the Hunan University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. But the whole program itself was established through the Haidian University of Beijing. It was their program in addition to all the other acupuncture, or I should say medical Qigong colleges, informations all put together in a conglomerate and then brought to the Hunan University. They okayed it, and they go, okay, we'll let you represent us, but the minute the government eases its restrictions on medical Qigong in China, the program's back to us. And we go, okay, I'll represent you here in America. The minute the government eases restrictions, then everything goes back to you.
And what does it mean that it goes back to you?
Well, that means the whole programs go to all the different colleges. And all the books, they use the information, everything is all set up. So all the work that I do, then they go, okay, no, that was the agreement. All this goes with these syllabi and the whole program set up. It's just that was in 2000. It's been 13 years and nothing.
They haven't eased anything.
No, so the program is, what I did is I put the syllabi on my website so that anyone can get the books, get the syllabi, and then learn from the information. Eventually they just have to get together with one of the graduates and some of the information. They'll have to get the DVDs or one of the graduates to teach them how to do the information if they have questions.
Right. And it seems like you have delegated the work to run the International Institutes of Medical Qigong to Bernard Chen out of Bernard.
We did it with Bernard, and then after 7 years, we ran into some legal problems. Yeah, and so what happened was Bernard formed the International College of Medical Qigong, and then I had the International Institute of Medical Qigong. But yeah, it was, we ran into problems with the private post-secondary review board or something like that. I don't know what happened, but everything was fine, and all of a sudden they came in, and I presented them all the accreditations, and they looked at everything, and they go, no, you're a medical college, and you haven't cleared it with us, and and Bernard can't use that, only you can use that, and so it was a lot of problems. We've sorted it out, everything's fine, but...
I see. Very, and still, since you transitioned from medical Qigong to the Taoist, the magic arts.
Now the International Institute of Medical Qigong is a subsidiary of the Temple of the Celestial Cloud. Do you understand? So now, all the training is part of the priest training, where we have martial arts, medicine, or magic. Then medicine is the entire International Institute of Medical Qigong. And since it's part of the Taoist tradition, and part of the we're part of now the temple, the church, and that's what happened.
Very interesting. And how does all of this blend with your studies of Lama in Tibetan Buddhism?
Oh, I had a teacher that was teaching me Taoism, and he was a good guy. We'd sit down and we'd talk about teachings, and it was really neat. You know how each teacher, and it's important that you understand this, is that it's not just the teachings, it's the transmission of the information. The transmission, there's like a lineage thing that flows from master to disciple. And so I was learning different things from this one Taoist priest, and we got to a point where he didn't want me to teach the public anymore. He gave me ultimatums. He goes, I don't want you, from this day forward, you're to tell no one that you know anything. If they ask you, you're supposed to lie and say, no, I don't know anything. And you're not to teach anybody any of this.
And the reason behind that was?
Because I'm only allowed to teach it to one child, my one child, either my oldest daughter or one of them, or one of my senior students, one or the other, that's it. That's the way it's, and I go, well, but if I do that, then I can't teach this. He goes, no, you're allowed to teach one person. You can teach this stuff to your daughter or one of your senior disciples, but that's it.
Was it some kind of change in policy?
No, it's just we were getting up to a point where we were working with deities. And they didn't want the information out in the public. And I go, well, the problem is that some of this people should have because it's spiritual transforming, and they should have the access to this to change their lives. And he goes, no. I go, why must the best things in life be for the chosen few? And he goes, that's the way it's always been. And I go, well, because it's the way it's always been doesn't mean it's right. And he goes, well, I'll let you think about it, but you need to give me your answer. So I thought about it, and I go, my calling is to bring the information to the people. And so I told him, I go, no, I really prayed about this. I really did. And I have to write these books. And he goes, then I won't teach you anymore. That's it. So I was in the altar room praying, and I was talking to God about it. I go, God, really, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to get me a teacher. And I can do all this stuff. I'm not a beginner. I have all this magical ability. So I want to respect anyone who just talk. I came from a martial. If you can't do it, then, don't talk about it. So I can do all this. So I have to have someone I respect. Otherwise, I won't trust them and I won't train with them. So if this is really what you want, I'm gonna need a teacher. About 8 days, 9 days later, I get this call from this one guy, and he's the Enigma guy. And so they want us to meet. And so I was just getting into thunder magic, and my teacher at that time was going to show me how to summon spirits and move matter, how to take one thing and float it from here. But because I decided to teach the information to the public, he wouldn't teach it to me. So I go to the Enigma master, and I'm talking to the Lama, and I go,
Did it just call it Enigma Master?
well, he's a Lama. But
I think it's a cute play of words that instead of enigma, it's an enigma.
Well, we're all enigmas in this. But I went to the master and we met, and I go, you guys do thunder magic, right? He goes, yeah, you can summon spirits, you know how to pull it. He goes, yes, and you can do this, and you can do this. He goes, yes.
Probably mostly associated with Bon.
Yes, because
Okay.
because he did Bon.
Yeah.
So we're talking about it. I'm like, well, okay, I've got all this stuff. I'll trade you. Because I came from that. And he goes, you'll trade me. I go, yes, I'll trade you all this, because I can do all this, and I'll teach you this ability and stuff in exchange for this. And he goes, Jerry, why don't you take it all? I go, what? So I'll give you everything. I've been trained in the Kashmir tradition, in the Shivite, in Nigma, and Bowl, and he just started putting, I will give it all to you. Who are you?
For real?
Yeah, he goes, no. He goes, no, I will. And I go, okay, well, what do you want in exchange? He goes, just for you to serve the divine.
You're so...
And I'm just like, well, I'm on board for that.
He talked about divine, then
Yes, well, because he listened to me and what was important to me. This is one thing I did learn from my teachers, is he goes, when you talk to someone, you listen to them, it's about their walk, not about your walk. You listen to them and what's important to them, and at that point you encourage them. That's where a priest, who's truly a priest, will be able to encourage a Catholic, a Buddhist, a Taoist, a Muslim, all of them in their walks, because it's not about you joining our team or belonging to this lineage. It's about me being a representative of the divine, encouraging you in your divine walk. So I listen to you and I choose the words that you use so we can relate, and then encourage them. So as we began to talk, I was like, okay, and at that point then my whole life started changing.
So it's a very cosmopolitan Lama that you're studying with.
I would say a very awakened, and I learned a lot from him, because I studied with many different mystics, and a lot of them were steeped in their tradition, and after a certain thing they were unapproachable. Studying with this Lama, he's always been very open, very loving, and so I've followed that guidance to be the same way with my students. Mm-hmm. The idea is to help them in their personal walk, because they have an investment in history with their personal walk. So it's important as a teacher to listen to them. How were you raised? And then encourage them in that walk.
Absolutely.
So
fantastic. And so now you're integrating some of the Tibetan Buddhist and shamanic practices with the Taoist practices?
Mm-hmm. We always say, actually it works very well. It depends on when you work with people. The cool thing about the Taoists is that we have all these talismans and these magic patterns that work with these different guardian spirits of different realms, just like the Buddhists do. Mm-hmm. The cool thing about the Buddhists is that their understanding of the 6 realms, their teachings about the illusions of life, and about the overview of life, and letting go of the attachments and crystallizing is excellent. And each one has certain things that the other ones don't have. Mm. Each one has something that the others can learn from. So my encounters with different, and this is the beauty of it, is that my encounters with the different advanced lamas and advanced gurus and advanced priests, is that we all share and we learn from each other to improve our personal walks and to be a better example to all of the people put in our lives. Because our life and our experience extends beyond just the people we're mentoring. It will be everyone you encounter in your life. And so with that, you're given information so that you can be a tool and to be an assistant and a man of virtue or a woman of virtue to anyone brought into along the path. So that's the great thing of it.
Well, apparently you have a great fortune of running into some of the teachers who don't mind you integrating different approaches into this syncretic worldview that you are developing, because even in the Chinese, the medical university, as you were describing, there were different cliques, and so even they were not talking to each other, but it seems like the teachers who you study with don't mind you actually integrating the different approaches, traditions, and kind of creating as an integral way of looking at spirituality and energy arts.
Yeah, that is so true. I have found that within each group, you have your fundamentalists that are right and condemn everybody. In Taoism, we have those. Buddhism, I've met many. Christians, I've met a lot. And the neat thing about working with the different spiritual people is they're spiritual and they're different from the religious people. They accept everyone and they love them and they encourage them in their walk. And that's been the wonderful thing about this journey, is that like truly does attract like. After a while you start meeting all these people and they're so loving, and then you go, oh, this is wonderful. And yet you know that they have suffered at the hands of people in their own sect or faith that are closed-minded and power-oriented instead of loving-oriented. It has been my experience that this whole walk is one of service, and that the more to whom much is given, much is expected. The more information you learn, then the more you give and you assist others.
Well, you mentioned that your teachers suffered at the hands of the fundamentalists and their respective lineages or organizations. Have you personally experienced any persecution like this or setbacks that served as great learning opportunities?
One of the great lessons that I learned was when I came back from Colorado. I came back to Monterey, and I was an acupuncturist and an herbalist and a Kung Fu master. I was a national Kung Fu champion in Colorado. They had tournaments of the fighters and Oktoberfest and all these things. So I entered into the tournament circuit doing forms and weapons competition and won first place. And several times, so I had all these, I had about 25 trophies, and so I had a realm of accomplishment. And I came and I was church hopping because I was searching for a place. So I went to this one church, and I'd go to that church on one Sunday, and the other Sunday I would go to another church, and I would go back and forth because I just want to feel the area, feel the people. And these 5 brothers came to me in this one church, and they go, "Brother, we have a word of God. God spoke to us. We've been praying about you, and we have a word of God for you." And I go, "Oh, cool. I love God. So if God's speaking through you, I'm thinking maybe I'm not listening. So please." You go, "Well, okay, don't hurt us." I go, "Well, no, please." And they go, "Okay, well, we know that you do the Kung Fu, and we know you do the acupuncture." I go, "Yeah." And so they go, "Well, David was a man of God, a warrior." And so they gave me all these scriptures. "So you should do the Kung Fu. But that acupuncture is occult and evil of the devil. So you shouldn't be doing the acupuncture because it's, the AMA doesn't recognize it." And remember, this was quite some time ago. And I'm listening to them, and I'm open. I'm not agreeing. I'm just listening to them. So I'm like, "Okay. So you want me to continue teaching Kung Fu?" "Yes, because you teach police officers and you teach special forces and you can, I'm like, "Okay, yes, I do. Yeah, okay." "And then don't do the acupuncture because it's occult and yin and yang and evil." And I'm like, okay. All right, now that was the one Sunday. The next Sunday I go to the next church. 5 brothers come up to me. 5.
With the same message?
No.
Oh, no.
They come here, "Brother, we've been praying to God about you, and He gave us a message to give to you, and we'd like to talk with you. Please don't hurt us." I'm like,
I've heard that song. Deja vu. It's a glitch in the Matrix.
I mellow. So I gotta go, "Okay, I'm fine with this." Okay. So we know that you teach Chinese Kung Fu, and then we know that you do the acupuncture. And we prayed to God, and this is the message God gave to us. That Jesus turns, and they give me all these scriptures. Don't do the Kung Fu because that's, Jesus said turn the other cheek. But the acupuncture is really good because you're healing people, and they gave me all these scriptures. And I sat back, and I wanted to get both groups in this corner weighing in, and just have them fight it out, And so I'm looking at them, and it's just like, who can be saved? I don't trust either one of these. Maybe I shouldn't be in either. So I call my sister, because my sister was a missionary for quite some time. I explained to her what happened, and she's laughing and going, "No, this is serious." But she's laughing even harder because she goes, "Okay." She goes, "Jerry, I'm going to give you one scripture." I go, "Oh, okay," because I've got, in my mind, I've got 2 camps here.
The Tao that can be experienced, not real Tao.
No. She goes, "Who art thou to to judge another man's servant. I go, ah. She goes, whether they eat meat or don't eat meat, they do it unto God. Those guys are projecting their own fears onto you. It has nothing to do with God. It has everything to do with their own fears and their ignorance. You answer to a higher court. You answer to God alone for all the actions that you do and you don't do. It's really simple. Do never listen to people telling you to do something that's contrary to what God has called you to do in this mission. You've been called to this. These skill levels have been given to you. You answer to that one court. You answer to a higher court. And she goes, I think with you, you call it the celestial court, the celestial realm. I go, yes. She goes, answer to that alone, not to these people. Don't trust them. They're projections of their own fears, their own fantasies, their own delusions. Trust in God only. And you know, don't listen to them anyhow. Compliments, criticisms, they all have an undercurrent of manipulation. You want to get your teachings directly from the divine and trust in the divine. And the fruit of that you will understand, because you'll know them by their fruit. Mm-hmm. So do what you pray about it, and ask God to lead you and not these people to lead you. And that caused a shift. And then I realized criticism, because people will always criticize you, they always will. Mm-hmm. And they will always compliment you, and they will always be confused by you. So the most important thing is to answer to the higher court. So what I do with my disciples and my students is I tell them the same thing. You're studying to become a child of light. A child of light is like a candle. It is neither male nor female. It embraces everything. So you are a child of God, a child of light. You're not a man, you're not a woman. That's just part of the you are a light. You're not this race or you are a light. So you can't look at the candle flame and tell me, is that male or female? Of what color is that? You're all, do you understand? And they get it. And I go, that is who you are. So you embrace everybody. It doesn't matter what belief structure they follow, they are still lights. You embrace them, you love them, and you encourage them so that they can radiate more light and be a light unto others. That's what the world needs, and that's why we're here. And so I just want to thank you for making this available to the public, and thank you for tuning in and for watching.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You've been listening to an interview with Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson on the talk show The Secrets of Qigong Masters. This show is brought to you by Academy of Qidao, the first and only school in the world offering professional education in Qigong coaching. Please visit qigongcoaching.com to find out about the programs and events offered by Academy of Qidao.